Hi, I'm Jeff, this is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north. And as you can see, I am fully clothed today. It's not 37 degrees Celsius in here anymore. It's actually pretty much like it's the middle of October outside. It's freezing, it's windy, it's rainy. The usual thing that British summers are known for. So, in a few weeks, I'm going away for a few days, and that leaves me with a monumental problem because I have all this to look after. This is a lot of plants to look after, and unfortunately I have nobody to look after them. So what am I going to do? I've got so much watering. In fact, it takes me an hour and a half to water this lot now. We're going to have a go and see if we can come up with some solutions so that none of my plants die while I am away. Let's jump in. Right, so this is the first proposed solution. So this is for all the Drosera. So what I've done here, I've actually moved forward the bench a little bit to fit 3 trays on, which I actually didn't know I could fit 3 trays on. So you know what that means? More plants, woohoo! So beauty of this system is we've got here the capillary matting, which cost me, I think it was about £35 for like 5 to 6 metres in length, about 2 metres wide or 1 metre, 1.5 metres wide, something like that, which I think is pretty reasonable. That should really do the whole greenhouse. I can put RO water here, I can have a really big reservoir here, and because I've not just got these raised up on trays now, I can use the whole surface of it to put the Drosera, which are kind of dotted around here, inside there and inside there. I'm just curious to see now how long it takes for the water to come up using the capillary action and wet all this, so that'll be interesting to see. I might just put a little weight on that wick thing there just to make sure that it works. So that's the first thing. Hopefully that's going to solve that one, and then we'll move on to the next one. So we've got the Drosera all set up there along with the Pinguiculas. Hopefully that will do that. So we'll see how long it takes for that capillary action to get working and to wet the middle tray, which is totally dry. I've left that dry at the moment just to see how long it takes. So I've done the same setup next to it. Now obviously this isn't our own water if I'm going to be doing the Streps, but I've just had a thought, and these Streps, a lot of them, if you look underneath, the bottom of the media, I've actually put some drainage in, like stones and things. Now, if you've got stones there, or if the bottom of that pot or the bottom of that media is lifted up some way, because obviously Streps don't like to sit in water, then your capillary action isn't going to work. Now, I don't really know whether it's going to be enough to cause a problem. Or what I mean by that is I don't know whether, even if I remove that drainage at the bottom of there and have the compost, the media in contact with the capillary matting, whether that's going to cause any kind of root rot issues, or whether it's just going to be to the extent that they might as well be sitting in 2 or 3 centimetres of water. That obviously would cause a problem. They would look like they were wilted, or whether just the small amount that they're going to get from the capillary matting is just enough to keep them going hydrated. I don't know. It's an experiment. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'll just use the Streps that look like they haven't got any drainage at the bottom for now, and see how they go. We'll try it because I've still got a few weeks yet, and see what happens, see if they survive, see if they look like they're thriving. It may be that I have to remove some of that drainage. So this is an ongoing experiment. Let's see what happens. So all of these here that you can see now have either got no drainage at the bottom, it's holes, it's like media straight to the holes, or they've got just sphagnum moss covering those holes. So that shouldn't be a problem, and they should take up the water. So for my Cephalotus follicularis, by the way, look at this huge blooms on these things. I've got this really weird setup. No idea if it'll work. I'm utilising the bottom shelf because I don't use it for anything else. So I thought, right, well, why not run a great big piece of capillary matting up to the top? So the question is, will it work? Will it actually transfer the water from one to the other? Now, again, a little bit of research on it, and it appears that the capillary action is actually affected by gravity, but I mean, there's all sorts of other factors involved. There's the liquid that you're using, there's the actual material that you're using to transfer by capillary action. That all makes a difference. Various other conditions and factors. However, I couldn't find anything that said they were small distances. Everything that I found, they were talking meters. So in other words, gravity had an effect over meters, not over just like 30-40 centimeters. So I mean, we can only try it, can't we? There's nothing lost if it doesn't work. So this one's a failure. Trying to get the water to go such a distance with this kind of capillary matting just doesn't work. It got to about there, it's very wet up to about there, and then it stopped. So I've left it 3 days, and this one up here is totally dry, so that's no use. The information did say, from the most reputable ones, that there is a limit through gravity, but it depends on many factors. Now I would expect that even a piece of toilet paper would actually dampen up the length of it a lot quicker than this one has. And when I look at this, you can see it's not, I mean, it's many layers, but it's not really very tightly squeezed together or fitted together. I think this one isn't as good a matting as what I used over there. It was a little bit cheaper, I got more of it. So maybe that's it, maybe it's the kind of material that I'm using, but I'm not going to buy any more because I'm trying to do it as cheaply as possible. So what I'm going to do, I've already started here, I'm going to go sideways with this. And just like the other ones, it seems that the level of that water matters in as much as if the level is higher than what's on here on this side, then the whole thing will just kind of travel across and you'll end up with the same level of water in each, which is no good. So you've got to raise this one up. And what I'm going to do up here, we'll remove that one, we'll remove this one here, and we'll have one at the back there, and that can feed all these. Now, because of the slope anyway, that should be easier to deal with because these will be higher just by chance, just because that's the kind of slope of the floor. So we'll try that and see what happens. Quick update over here. This seems to be okay now. So this middle tray isn't raised up, and you can see how wet it is in there, but it doesn't matter because they're carnivorous plants, they don't mind it, they sit in that anyway. This centre one here is raised up, so that's meant that the capillary matting here is just damp enough, it's okay. This one over here is lower down, again, just damp enough. Same over here, not had a problem there. We've raised that one up, that's being fed from that one, and these two are damp enough. So far, the Streptocarpus don't seem to mind their feet in that little bit of water. I did have a discussion with somebody, I think it was Smart from Semi-Hydroponics with Smart, I think. So she obviously does semi-hydro, and she has Streptocarpus sitting in water. Well, I think they're in leca, and then the bottom roots are in water. Now, she says that there are different routes for water, like different water routes. Again, there's a lot of information on that on the internet. I don't know how much of it is just people having a go and seeing. I don't know if these routes are different. If anybody can point me to a credible source on that, I'd be really interested to have a read up on that. But as far as I'm concerned, I wondered whether the reason that hers aren't dying, because I've said many times that Streptocarpus sitting in water, the roots rot. Is this different in some way? Is this because it's only the very bottom section of the pot? Maybe the whole thing, you know, maybe they have to sit in a centimetre of water before it'll start to rot the roots. Maybe it's just too early. I've only had this running about a week. We'll see what happens with this. You know, different environments, plants act differently in different ways. So the whole point of this is to see whether I can cut down on my watering and just basically fill up these trays and not having to do it constantly. I think I might have mentioned earlier, it's taken me 90 minutes a go now to water everything, which is rather a long time out of the day. Another interesting point is you can see here, all these have become damp through the capillary matting, except that one. And this is also important to point out. You've got to look at the bottom. Now this one, can you see, isn't a flat bottomed pot, and that's the reason why. So you've no capillary action with the non-flat bottomed pot, with one with bumps in it, because it's not touching enough, it's not in contact with the surface. You've got to get that capillary action going, it's got to be flat. So that is going to have to be moved, or it's going to have to be put in a different pot so that we can get that going. I also read that even if you do have a flat bottom, if you've got some drainage in the the bottom of the pot, that will prevent capillary action from happening. And if you've got the whole thing set up correctly, you still might not get capillary action until you wet the pot. So you might have to water it through anyway, and that then might make the capillary action happen. So it's not a case of just stick this in place and leave it and let it all happen. You've still got to keep your eye on these things. It's definitely an experiment. It's not something that's simple to do, but it may well be the solution that I'm looking for. It's certainly really interesting. I'm enjoying having a go at it and seeing what happens and seeing what works. Things going pretty well so far, but there's one or two things that I've got to be careful about. So this is wet. The Mastovali here isn't. When you look underneath, you can see that there is a crock right covering the hole there. Well, there's no capillary action going to take place there, is there? So this is what you've got to be careful of. This one doesn't feel, oh yes it does feel damp underneath. I did notice that some of these carnivorous plants, this one was very dry when it was over here, and again I just hadn't pressed it down enough. It wasn't making contact. You've got to make contact with the capillary matting, otherwise it doesn't work. So you've really got to be monitoring it. You can't just set it and forget it. Another little point to make is that I can let these go dry. There's no reason why, like that one for example, I've let it go dry because I don't want these Streptocarpus being constantly wet. They prefer to be on the dry side. Remember, this is to cover when I go away on holiday, but the other bonus to it is that when I get this system set up and working, I can actually leave them with pretty much full water in there for a few days. It can soak it up. It means I'm not watering it every single day, and then when it's in the hot weather anyway, and then of course I can refill them. So there is quite a bit of flexibility in this. So I'm going to move around the greenhouse and try and do as many as I possibly can before I go away on holiday in a few weeks. So with the mandevilla vine, it's such a big plant, and I know from bitter experience that it really doesn't want to be, in my environment of course, wet for too long. So I'm going to have to be really careful with this. So what I've done here, I've simply taken some barbecue tongs and I have pushed like this strip of capillary matting down into the side of the pot. Now that was quite easy because I repotted this not that long since. Probably, well, we go May, so what are we now? August. So it's only a few months since, so there's still like a bit of a gap round the side, so it's fairly easy to do. And that is now sitting in that water over there, that needs topping up, and hopefully I'll be able to control it that way without having to water it while I'm away on holiday. It will of course go quite a number of days in my environment without water, certainly a week quite easily. But just trying different things out, see how it works, and this might be something that I can use with some of the other plants like the Nepenthes, maybe even the bougainvillea. So still on the mandevilla vine, so that didn't work, and same reason as it didn't work in the other side of the greenhouse, in that the gap between that reservoir where the water is and the top of this pot is just too great. And this capillary matting is only getting wet up to about there where my thumb is, and it's not moving any further up. So the next plan, I have just set up here another pot which is just sitting on top of another one just to raise it up, and this is going to go into there. That's going to be filled with water just a tiny little bit below the surface so that it's not all going to transfer into there. We want it lower. If it was any higher, then the likelihood is it would all transfer into there, and that's not what we want. Again, trial and error, let's see what happens. So I'm going to fill that up with water and let's see if this manages to keep damp. And there we have it all set up, and let's see how that works. As we're running out of space here, I've utilised what will be the reservoir, that's that one, to have this lovely sherry baby in there, but I don't want that to sit in the water, so I've just got an ornamental pot there, can sit in the reservoir without any damage or any like constant watering, which is obviously not what I want for an orchid like that. So this arrangement here with the mandorvilla has actually worked much better than I expected. So as you can see there, it's full of water now because I've just topped it up. But when I came in 5 minutes ago, that was completely empty, completely. And you can see that there's water down at the bottom of that pot. So what has actually happened is that has actually acted like a siphon, and it transferred the entire lot of water through the pot there. And because I've got it raised up, it then put the excess into the bottom of the gravel tray, which is absolutely perfect, because that means that then that is not sitting in the wet, but it's taking in what it needs. So I'll just top that back up again. But what I'll probably do is leave that next time. I just wanted to see if it happens again, which I don't see why it wouldn't, but I just want to see it in action. I've solved a lot of the problems, but not every single problem, and we've done that as we've gone along and dealt with things as they've occurred. So definitely the big pots, things like the mandorvilla, we seem to have solved. All the little things like Streptocarpus, the little carnivorous plants, the other smallish plants that are in like a multi-purpose compost, they seem to be solved. Solved the problem with the capillary action when the pots had drainage in the bottom. Removed the drainage, removed the stones from the bottom, transferred some of the plants that were in a pot that didn't have a flat bottom to pots that did have a flat bottom. I've rehydrated some of the pots where the media was really dry and we didn't get capillary action there. We've solved the problem of the levels, so the trays that were directly connected to the reservoirs need to be slightly higher so they don't get waterlogged. And if we take all that out of the equation, I can safely say that I've saved myself some time over the week, and obviously as time goes on we'll be able to refine that system and save more and more time. Still thinking about going on holiday, so things like this bulbophyllum here, I can easily take that down and put it in like a gravel tray and put some water at the bottom of that. That will be fine for a few days like that. If I have another one like this that I can do the same thing for. This one over here will go for easily a week without being watered, so I don't need to worry about that. I'm still not totally convinced that I've solved it with the Begonia luxurians. You can see it's just beginning to wilt now. I had taken out the strip connecting them because the plumeria were getting a little bit too wet. I've just reconnected that, so I may need to water the begonia just to get it going again. Not solved the problem of the mounts yet. I'm not really sure what to do about those. Same with the moss, same with the vanda up there. I think I can take down these very large nepenthes, and we can do the same thing that we did with the mandorvilla over there. Hoya will be absolutely fine. What else have we got over here? That begonia needs to be transferred to a pot with a flat bottom. The orchids don't need to worry about, they'll be okay for a week. And I think that should just about do it. So still a little bit of work to do, still some refining to do, but I think overall I'll be quite happy to go away for a week knowing that all my plants will be safely watered and knowing that I'm not actually imposing myself on anybody else's time, which is a win as far as I'm concerned. So if you have any comments, please stick them down below, and I would love to hear from people to see what their experiences are, to see if they've got any suggestions for me for the future, if there's anything else I can do to refine my system or something I've not even thought of. Please put it in the comments below. If you found any of this useful or any of this remotely interesting, please tickle that like button. It all helps the channel to grow. And for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.